I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. You know, a minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So
The Indiana Fever versus the Las Vegas Aces isn't just a basketball series. It feels like a heist on national television. Indiana shocked everyone by stealing Game 1 in Vegas. But from that point on, the story flipped. The Aces didn't simply respond with talent or adjustments. They had the referees on their side, handing out whistles so unbalanced the matchup barely looked like basketball. Head coach Stephanie White refused to stay silent, delivering one of the most emotional post-game interviews of her career as she called for a league-wide investigation into WNBA officiating. Fans inside Gamebridge saw it unfold, social media amplified it, and the box score backed it up. The Aces weren't defeating Indiana, they were being handed victories. The real shame is that those phantom calls overshadowed the grit, fight, and relentless heart the Fever displayed every single night. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the WNBA will fix this mess?
Disappointing, you know, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways. But we also can't allow that to consume us, right? Like, we've got to be able to play through that. We've got to be able to control the things that we can control.
This wasn't Indiana's first time battling two opponents, the team in front of them and the referees holding whistles. From the start, the favoritism was clear. Game 1 set the tone as Las Vegas struggled to find offensive rhythm, relying heavily on free throws to claw back. At the same time, Indiana's tough but clean defense, their ability to body up without fouling, somehow turned into constant foul trouble whenever it suited the officials. The Aces were allowed to swing elbows with no consequence, while the Fever were penalized for the smallest contact, even being whistled for breathing too close. That double standard wasn't hidden. It was glaring for anyone watching closely.
So why don't you think you were able to find any flow? And when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. You know, and when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. And, you know, we didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm. It's about timing. It's about spacing. We allowed them to do that. And they kept.
By Game 2, the problem was undeniable. The whistles didn't just appear, they controlled the tempo, pulling Indiana out of rhythm time after time. By Game 3, the bias had hardened into a wall the Fever couldn't break through. The defining moment came in the third quarter when Aaliyah Boston, Indiana's anchor, contested a foul call on Jackie Young. Stephanie White immediately signaled for a review. The bench was prepared, and fans waited for justice. Instead, the officials acted as if nothing had happened, refusing to acknowledge the request. Just seconds later, Chelsea Gray drilled a three-pointer, completely swinging the momentum.
Aaliyah Wilson is 1 for 12 as a foul is called on Boston, and that will be number 2 on Aaliyah Boston.
You saw Indiana picking up full court pressure defensively, and if you're Aaliyah Boston, that's the one spot on the floor you do not want to get a foul call.
And Stephanie White is trying to challenge it and did not call the timeout in time. Gray in the corner.
What had been a hard-earned Indiana lead was stripped away, not by Vegas's execution, but by a call the officials refused to review. The Gamebridge crowd exploded in disbelief, their cheers turning into boos and outrage. Within minutes, clips of the sequence spread online, with fans and analysts highlighting that exact play as proof of rigging. The breakdowns showed more than a single missed review. They exposed a pattern of flops, elbows, and cheap shots from the Aces that somehow remained invisible to the referees.
A recap from last night. So Aaliyah Wilson pushes Howard in the back. Howard pushes her in the back. It's a foul on Howard. Look at this. Aaliyah Boston gets totally fouled by Aaliyah Smith. Like, it's obvious, but no call. And then Aaliyah Wilson gets the call for not half as much. And then Aaliyah Smith gets the call for not even getting touched. Here's a replay just to prove it to you. Yep,
That was the moment it stopped looking like oversight and started resembling an agenda. The tape shows Aaliyah Wilson lowering her shoulders and bulldozing through Aaliyah Boston like a fullback, yet play continued without a sound. Indiana defenders were knocked to the floor, and still silence from the referees. On the other side, if a Fever player so much as brushed against a jersey, the whistle blew as if they had committed a crime. This wasn't Vegas outplaying Indiana with talent. It was referees supplying lifelines until the scoreboard tilted.
Followed up by Lexie Hull getting called for the foul.
I thought it was egregious, honestly. I mean, I thought it was obvious. I felt like AB got one, had one going to the rim. They're in rotation. And then Lexie's, I felt like equally, we talk about, coming into the path, and it was an offensive player veering into the defensive players.
But this is where Indiana showed they were different. Lesser teams would have folded under the weight of unfair calls, dropping their heads and giving in. Not the Fever. The clearest symbol of that defiance was none other than Lexie Hull. Think about it. How often do you see a player many thought wouldn't even be on the floor nearly change the course of an entire playoff game? That's exactly what Hull did in the last few outings. Battling through a painful back injury suffered in Game 1, she was listed as questionable each night. Her warm-ups looked stiff, her movement uncertain, and it seemed she'd only give a few minutes as a placeholder. Instead, Hull turned those minutes into a showcase of pure resilience, the kind fans will remember long after this series is over.
Lexie, you have drawn the most offensive foul in the W this year, including the playoff. How are you able to do that?
I'm just trying to defend as hard as I can, and there's only certain screens you're allowed to set, so just trying to trail them, and that's all I can really say.
She finished with 16 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal, doing it all while shooting 6 of 10 from the field and knocking down 3 huge triples. Each shot felt like oxygen, keeping Indiana alive whenever Vegas tried to surge ahead. Those threes weren't just stats. They tied her with a Fever playoff record across 2 games, giving her 8 in total, an achievement no one expected from a player pushing through back pain. And those 16 points, a career playoff high, came right in the middle of complete chaos.
Boston has the mismatch on Lloyd. Help comes. Kick out. Hull will fire. And hit from 3. Last 2 positions inside from Indiana. Smith tied up by Hull. And a jump ball between Smith.
What made her performance unforgettable wasn't just the numbers, but the way she earned them. Every possession was a battle, with loose balls turning into collisions and rebounds into wrestling matches. Yet Hull never backed down. Cameras caught her wincing in pain multiple times, but that didn't stop her from boxing out players taller and stronger. She threw herself on the floor for loose balls, absorbed contact on rebounds, and still found the composure to bury threes on the other end. Each play wasn't only worth points, it pumped energy into the Fever every time officiating tried to drain it away.
On the left side of the floor, just a clear out, letting Jackie Young go to work.
Jackie Young with 17 points. Boston to the corner. Hull, catch, fire, and hit. Correct call. Evans dishes. Ray whips a pass inside. What a denial from Lexie Hull.
The Hull able to save the play.
12-point game, a little under 2.5 to go. Hull hits Indiana's first field goal of the...
And that's why the fans rallied to her. Gamebridge wasn't blind. They knew exactly what they were watching, a warrior fighting through pain because her team needed her. Every rebound she secured, every shot she sank pulled the crowd back into the game. Even when the whistles tried to kill the energy, Hull's effort stood as the beating heart of Indiana's resistance.
Back to Hull, wide open 3 is good.
The floor that she wants, doesn't it?
It does. Mitchell, connect. Here's Mitchell. Mitchell, one more. You bet.
But that's what made the night sting even more. On the same night Lexie Hull delivered the best playoff performance of her career, the conversation wasn't about her. It wasn't about her 16 points or her gritty 10 rebounds. It was about referees tilting the game. The spotlight that should have honored her courage was stolen by controversy. And maybe that's the perfect metaphor for the Fever themselves. Underdogs, underestimated, and constantly shoved aside, yet still standing tall. On one side, you had Hull giving everything, dragging her body through pain for her teammates. On the other, you had Aaliyah Wilson, the league's supposed MVP, largely absent when it mattered most, sustained only by whistles that granted her chances Indiana never received. That contrast told the story. One team earning it with sweat and sacrifice, the other carried by officials more invested in protecting the Aces' brand than letting the Fever's fight shine.
Offensive foul, practically a football check, and the Aces score. So now the Aces cut it to 2, and then Aaliyah Wilson sets an illegal screen, and they tied things up. And then Lexie Hull gets called for a foul for doing nothing. They just had 2 illegal screens they didn't call. All right, so this is fair. Same thing happens on the other side, but they don't call a foul for Kelsey Mitchell. So Aaliyah Boston gets called for this foul for getting her arm grabbed, but Stephanie White can't challenge. They won't let her. That's the second time this game they didn't let her have her challenge. And then Aaliyah Wilson starts acting like a big baby.
Picture this. The league's most decorated player, the reigning MVP, going nearly 3 quarters without a single basket. That was Aaliyah Wilson in Game 3. She opened with a confident three-pointer that looked like it might signal dominance, but instead it became her only highlight of the first half. By the break, she was 1-for-11, a shooting line that would embarrass even a rookie on a 10-day contract. She eventually limped to 6 makes on 20 attempts, finishing with just 13 points on 20 shots. Let's be clear, that's dreadful. Not just below her standards, but unacceptable for any WNBA starter, let alone the MVP. Rather than attacking inside and imposing her the way she's celebrated for, Wilson drifted outward, settling for contested fadeaways and mid-range heaves, clearly rattled by Aaliyah Boston's relentless defense.
Here we go. She gets a foul called with a 3-point game for, I don't know why they called that foul, but it's the 3rd quarter and they want them to win. So here we go. Ace is up by 3. They call another foul for Aaliyah Wilson that isn't a foul. All right, so then they call another foul on the Fever. That isn't a foul. And then to end the game after it's out of control because the Fever had a 6-point lead, but they kept calling fouls, another foul for Aaliyah Wilson that's not a foul. Ball don't lie. Aaliyah missed 11 shots in a row during this game.
Vegas didn't need Wilson to play like an MVP, and that's what infuriated fans most. Even as she bricked her way through 3 quarters, the Aces still walked out with the win, not because of her, but because everything else leaned their way. Jackie Young delivered a takeover performance with 25 points, burying Indiana rallies with dagger jumpers. Chelsea Gray added a steady 15, bailing out the offense when it stalled. Nalissa Smith, who has battled inconsistency this season, came up with key plays that landed exactly when Vegas needed them. So while Wilson clanked shot after shot, the mix of teammates stepping up and referees keeping the cushion tilted was enough to secure the result. What stung even more was the media spin. Wilson's box score screamed inefficiency, yet outlets glossed it over with praise about her all-around impact. A rebound here, a block there, a couple of assists, or they shifted focus to the Aces' depth. What got buried was the truth, Aaliyah Boston. Possession after possession, she sealed the paint, cut off angles, and forced Wilson into tough, low-percentage attempts. When a league MVP shoots 30% on 20 shots, that isn't an off night. It's elite defensive execution. That was Boston neutralizing a star, plain and simple. But instead of giving her the credit she deserved, the narrative bent over backward to protect Wilson's reputation.
2 as well.
Here's Hull. Working behind Boston. Boston was open. Great take, and Boston lays it in.
Even then, Wilson still left her mark, just not in ways that deserve respect. Watch closely, and it's all there. Elbows thrown under the basket, undercuts during box outs, arms swinging dangerously into Indiana players, and almost none of it called. Somehow, she's still painted as the victim. Becky Hammon even had the audacity to complain post-game that Wilson only attempted 1 free throw in 38 minutes. The irony is glaring. Vegas has lived at the foul line all series. When you're drowning in freebies, demanding more whistles isn't just laughable, it's insulting. The truth is simple. Indiana did their job. They bottled up Aaliyah Wilson, executed the defensive game plan flawlessly, and Boston led the charge. Yet the Fever still lost because officiating ensured Vegas never paid for Wilson's brickfest. That's why this Aces win feels hollow. It wasn't a superstar dragging her team to victory. It was a team carried by whistles and secondary scores while their star was locked down. Call it what it is, not dominance, but a protected escape.
Got hit a lot tonight. To shoot one free throw in 38 minutes. I know they told me not to say anything, but I can't.
It wasn't just the losses that left a bitter taste. It was the officiating circus that stole the spotlight. And that's why Stephanie White finally snapped. She didn't hold back, didn't stick to the company line. In her post-game interview, she said what every player, fan, and analyst has been demanding for months. The WNBA needs a full-scale investigation into its officiating. Not a memo, not a quiet apology behind closed doors, but a real, public reckoning.
I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
Her frustration was written all over her face. Stephanie White has been through battles as a player and tough losses as a coach, but this was different. This wasn't basketball. It was her team being robbed of the fair stage they earned. Lexie Hull putting her body on the line, Aaliyah Boston fighting through triple teams, Kelsey Mitchell battling relentless pressure, all undermined by officiating. She called it out directly. The problem isn't just inconsistency. It's the integrity of the game being compromised. And she's right. How many times have we seen Caitlin Clark hammered with no whistle, only to watch the same contact rewarded on the other end? How often has Boston fought for position only to be hit with phantom fouls? How many times have Hull or Mitchell been punished for hustle while opponents flop into free throws? This series has become the ugly culmination of an issue that's been brewing all season.
Here's Boston, back to Hull. Sets herself up. Mitchell is free, laying it in. Been a while since Mitchell has gotten a shot attempt. Mitchell will get one here. Heads hit.
White's demand for accountability is bigger than just the Fever. It's about protecting the future of the WNBA itself. Here's the truth. Without Caitlin Clark, without the Fever, without the surge of new fans packing arenas and smashing TV ratings, the league doesn't have this spotlight. And yet instead of protecting that growth, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert sits silent while referees tilt games and hand the defending champs lifelines they didn't earn. Fans see it. Social media sees it. Analysts see it. The only ones pretending otherwise are in the league office hoping the noise fades. But thanks to Stephanie White, it won't. Her call for an investigation isn't just emotion. It's the first real demand for accountability from inside the system. If Engelbert ignores it, the message to fans is clear. The league doesn't care about fairness, only about protecting chosen teams. Bottom line, White has already shifted the spotlight back where it belongs, onto the corrupt officiating dragging this league down. And if there's any justice left in basketball, her words will spark the change that finally forces the WNBA to fix its dirtiest secret. Let us know in the comments if you think the WNBA will clean this up. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on screen, and we'll see you in the next one.